Hey everyone. It's like there's a lot of people on here already. Can everyone hear me okay? Let's see. Wow, a lot of people on here already. How's everybody doing? Tennessee, Arkansas, Detroit. Nice. Can you guys hear me okay? I see a lot of good questions on here. Rick is asking about the book I've been working on. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Rick was asking about the book I've been working on. That's about motorcycle camping. Good. Sounds like you guys can hear me. That's good. Yeah, I got a book coming out about motorcycle camping. I've been really working hard on that the last few weeks, so hoping to get that out in another month or two. Let's see, Mississippi, nice. I saw somewhere on there someone asked me about a trip to Alaska. That is definitely on my plans at some point. Everything's kind of up in the air at the moment, but I would really love to do the TCAT, which is the Trans-Canada Adventure Trail, and then that's about 11,000 miles of dirt and gravel to get across Canada. It goes through all the territories. Looks really awesome. It's kind of similar to the TAD if you guys are familiar with that. So I'm hoping to do that and incorporate a trip to Alaska as well. That's probably on hold for a while though. Where are you now, and what is your latest thinking on riding around the world? Well, Michael, great question. I'm currently in Phoenix and doing little short trips within the state right now. It's looking like international travel is going to be not an option for a little bit. So for now, I'm going to be traveling around the US. I think in the next few weeks, I'm going to be hitting the road again and doing some shorter trips, some backcountry discovery routes and things like that. Can we pre-order your book? Ed, yes, definitely. As soon as it is finished writing and I send it to an editor and start formatting it and all of that, the book will be available for pre-sale, which will really help me out because I'm doing it all myself. So I have to order whatever books I'm going to sell. So I will be doing pre-sales to kind of help me get, a surplus of books together. So I will definitely be letting you guys know about that. Let's see. A lot of questions. How did you plan for services, tires on your bike during your trip? The Hexter 1, great question. A lot of that, I just carry around the tools that I'm going to need to do oil changes, filters, brake pads, the general maintenance that I can anticipate. Sometimes I'll even carry an extra set of brake pads with me if I know I might need them on the trip. And then I kind of just do it all myself. So that really simplifies having to find a dealer that can fix my bike or, being held up waiting for somebody. It just makes it a lot more convenient for me to do my maintenance when it works for me. That's what's kind of worked for me anyway. But actually, so just to expand on that a little bit, traveling through. So just make sure if you are traveling and you need to go to a service shop, just give them a call ahead of time and let them know that you're coming through and you're traveling, and they'll usually let you skip the line and take priority over people that are local. Hi, Linda. How you doing? Paul, how are you doing? Good to see you guys on here. Leather Tramp Expeditions. Yes, come play in Canada. I definitely hope to soon. At the very least, I think this summer, if I can get up to Banff and Jasper, has been high on my list for a very long time. I'd love to see that, just depending on how things open up. When are you coming to North Dakota? Your coffee is getting cold. Hopefully soon. I think at the very least this summer, I'm thinking I'm going to be doing some traveling in the US and heading up towards the Dakotas and Montana and Wyoming, maybe the PNW again, and checking out some things that I missed on this last trip. Rosemary wants a signed copy of the book. That'll be an option. I will make sure to make that an option for anybody that wants a signed copy when you order them. What's a good trail for a newbie? Pepe Cara, great question. Just depends on where you are, but a lot of Forest Service roads and fire access roads, if they're designated a road, they're usually at least relatively easy. It'll be dirt, maybe a little bit of gravel, but where you start getting into like the really kind of gnarly stuff is when you get on trails and secondary roads that are not maintained. If you're in Arizona, there's quite a few good examples I could give you of that. Apache Trail used to be an awesome beginner route. It's just super smooth, packed dirt, but half of that road is closed now. Oh, Amanda's on here as the magpie flies. How you doing, Amanda? Barry, good to see you on here. Wynand, let me know. We have a place to stay for you. I definitely will. I'd love to catch up with you when I get up there. Let's see. Vi G, what cruiser bike would you recommend for a beginner? I just lost it. Woman rider. So the Honda Shadow, I think there's a few different models of the Honda Shadow, but one of them in particular is very small, but it's not underpowered. It's got enough power that you could kind of grow into it. And I know, especially a used one, is going to be way below that budget. They're light, so it's manageable. I think anything in the 600 range should be good. Seat height is probably going to be the biggest issue. That's what I found looking for bikes for women, that the seat height was too tall for a lot of them. There's a lot of good cruisers for beginners, but I would say go with a 600 because with a cruiser, they're a little bit heavier. You don't want something that's so underpowered that you grow out of it like almost immediately. Danny, Lake Tahoe. I will definitely let you know. I love that area. Lake Tahoe is so much fun to ride around, and a lot of cool stuff in that area. Donner Pass and the Truckee River. It's so beautiful up there. Sean, glad you're getting some good tips from my videos. I appreciate that. Ravlog, Europe is definitely on my list. It might be another couple of years before I get over there though, but I would love to explore Europe on a bike. Hobbs Lane, Barry from Canada here. Hey Tim, do you think people really understand how challenging motorbike touring is? Rest, energy, eating, climate, etc. I don't know how other people would rate that, but I know for myself in the beginning, I drastically underestimated how challenging it would be. And I even planned my trip based on, my endurance on a weekend trip, where it might be easy to do 500 miles 2 days in a row. But if you plan out a 2-week trip at 500 miles a day, you're going to just destroy your body within, the first week. And yeah, it is. It's definitely challenging being exposed to the weather and everything. Just being on the move and packing and unpacking the bike. There's a lot to it that I think gets overlooked. How tall am I? I'm about 6'1". What boot do you think is best for on and off bike? Chewy Davidson. My absolute favorite boot, which is a little bit more of an adventure boot, but works on the pavement too, is the Forma Adventure boots. The reason I like them so much, I've been using them for about a year and a half, almost 2 years now, and that's extensive use. And they're super comfortable right out of the box. So if you're traveling around, you're very frequently off the bike, walking around a lot. They're very comfortable to walk around. I've hiked in them. They're supportive for light off-road. I wouldn't do anything too gnarly in them, but they're better than a hiking boot, certainly. The Shadow 750, DC ungelled. Yes, that is an awesome bike. I think that's the one I was thinking of, and that's a great beginner bike. Zen Motorcycle Man, will you do an audio version of the book so we can listen while we ride? Possibly, but a lot of it is very technical and there's going to be diagrams and stuff. I have thought about doing an audio version and then maybe just attaching, a PDF of the diagrams that you would need that you could reference as you're listening to it. So that might be cool. You guys could listen to it on the bike. Timothy Hardesty, Alaska this year. I'm not sure. It's not looking great at the moment. I was hoping to do something like that, but might not be this year. That might be next year. What paper map would I recommend? Bill Hawley. The Butler maps are great, especially the ones specifically designed for motorcyclists because they have routes that are laid out that are good for bikes. And the other thing I really like about them is they're waterproof, water resistant, which is great for traveling on a motorcycle. Trying to look at a map when it's raining, those paper ones just get shredded instantly. So anything with Butler motorcycle maps are really great. If you're looking for a map book, I've always kind of recommended the Michelin map books because their scenic routes are just so on point and they're not always the obvious ones. And I just like Michelin maps. So. Brian Ensminger, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Did you feel safe in Mexico traveling alone? Yes, absolutely. Especially in Baja, it's a very, very safe area. There's very little crime there, and the people are absolutely wonderful. I did have a lot of anxiety leaving Mexico, but that had nothing to do with the people. The people there are amazing. I never had any issues there whatsoever where I felt like threatened or I was in any physical danger. I think the worst thing that happened was I got a few people trying to rip me off at a gas station. That was the extent of it. But no, I felt very safe there. And I highly recommend anybody that likes riding a motorcycle get down to Baja at some point. It's like a dream for motorcyclists. Even if you stick to the pavement, it's really great. John Everidge, Test. I see you on there, buddy. Any memorable beer gardens visited on your trip? Michael Brand. Nothing in particular. I usually tend to go to coffee shops. There have been some pretty amazing coffee shops I found in my travels. One in particular, if you're looking for good coffee and a pretty unique place, is on Scenic Bypass 12 in Utah between Zion and Bryce, which is just a super twisty road through the mountains and just gorgeous views of these rock formations. And then just out in the middle of nowhere, like 30 miles from anywhere, is a coffee shop, and it's super cool. You can sit outside and just be surrounded by these gorgeous mountains where you're actually up above the road and you can see people just kind of taking this corner, and it's a really neat place. What are your thoughts? Bob Berry, what are your thoughts on the new Tenere 700 as a mid-weight ADV bike? I think the Super Tenere is a great bike. I haven't ridden one myself, but I do know people that have had them. They look like great bikes. I think I would maybe be more inclined to go towards the V-Strum, but that's just my personal preference. I think the Teneres are a little bit expensive for that type of bike. Swing by Carson City, Richard Waterman, when you come to Tahoe. Will do. I hope to actually be up there this summer when I'm roaming around, so I'd love to meet up with you. Marshfield. Yeah, I'm familiar with that area. I used to live just a few miles from there. Petty Nerd, was Voyageurs National Park the most disappointing stop on your tour? Voyageurs. No, that was not the most disappointing. I wasn't the most immersive national park because I didn't take a boat ride, and I'm sure if I had, I would have probably really enjoyed that much more. But it definitely wasn't the most disappointing. I don't know if I can think of a most disappointing. I think Hot Springs in Arkansas was pretty disappointing. Voyageurs was pretty cool. Looks like I got a super chat on here, but I don't see a comment. Am I doing this right? Oh, Timothy Hardesty, thank you for the super chat. That is really awesome. Alcan is a dream drive. It's definitely on my bucket list. I would love to get up there. Yeah, that's just looks beautiful up there. And I really want to do, is it the Dempster that's in Canada? Yeah, that one, I'm not sure if I'm getting them confused, but the one that goes all the way up to the Arctic Circle on the Canadian side looks really cool. Let's see. Ride of rides, any BDRs this year? Yes, absolutely. I have my eye on the Colorado BDR, the Southern California BDR, and possibly the New Mexico BDR, and maybe some sections of Utah, but some of Utah just looks too much for me. But it looks absolutely beautiful. It just looks so rough. Austin Rhodes, how you doing, buddy? I'm good. How are you? Full Throttle Power Sports in Oklahoma. Nice. Glad to have you on here. Let's see. Roger says Canada border due to open May 21st. If they don't extend it again. Yeah, we'll see what happens. It seems like everything kind of keeps getting pushed out. They were saying May 1st for a while and then May 15th. And we'll see what happens. Good morning from the Philippines, Jim D. Good morning, buddy. It is late afternoon here, but it's cool to have you on here. If you travel to Asia, will you ship your bike or ride one from here? That is an awesome question, Jim. It is my intention to ship my motorcycle to Europe at some point and then just going to keep working my way around as much of it as I can do on my own bike. That was kind of the idea when I bought the GS, was to put as many miles on it as I can and just have one bike to do the whole trip on, the whole world. Pigtail in Arkansas. I can't pronounce your name, but I have not done that ride yet, and I've had other people recommend that to me, so maybe I need to get out there this year. Shannon Lawrence, any suspension work on your GS? Not yet, but I am planning on getting that upgraded before I leave the country again. So when I bought the GS, previous to the 1200, I had an F800 GSA, which was the adventure model, higher suspension, and it was really tall, even for me at 6'1". And I found that I was dropping it so frequently off-road just by not having good footing. The bike would just tip over constantly. So when I got rid of that bike and decided to upgrade to the 1200, for whatever reason, it seemed like a good idea to get the lowered suspension so that that wouldn't happen. And it definitely helped. I don't tip over quite as often. But now that I've gotten more experience off-road, I definitely feel like I'm missing that suspension travel. A few times this past year, I actually bottomed out the front suspension, which did not feel good. So yeah, I'm hoping to upgrade the suspension and go with a slightly taller setup, especially with the weight that I carry on that bike. Carrie, thank you for the live chat and all your great videos. I'm working on a new top case this week based on your video. Awesome. It's a really great setup. If you need any help with it, just let me know. But it's cheap, it's easy, and it works great. I love it. It's absolutely perfect for what I need to carry in it. Whoa, I just got a really big super chat from Pedro Gomez. Keep living your dreams. I live mine through you until I get the time to do it my own. Pedro, thank you so much. That is incredibly generous. And I intend to keep traveling as much as possible, and maybe we'll cross paths someday. You never know. Thank you for the super chat, though. That's incredible. Chandler Marshall, how do I get more subscribers? Just keep putting in the work. I think I was on YouTube for 3 years before I started gaining any subscribers that weren't family and friends that I had to pester to subscribe to my channel. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of time, a lot of commitment, but it's so worth it. You make a lot of great friends on YouTube, and I have met some incredible people, so I can tell you for certain it is worth the effort to build up your channel and make some really cool friends through this. YouTube is such an amazing platform. Pablo, I'm new to your channel. Good work. Thank you, Pablo. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Das Boot, how about Tiger's 900 cc's? My friend Bob has one of those, and I've ridden it a few times on and off road. I think it's a great bike. I don't feel like it's a perfect bike for me off road. I think the wheelbase is a little too short, and it gets a little squirrely off road for me, but I think that's just because I'm used to a GS and the low center of gravity and everything. But the Tigers are great bikes. I think if I was looking for an adventure bike in that engine size range, I'd probably go with the Tiger over anything else. Raheem, maybe you can do a follow-up review of the Basilisk jacket, please. Yeah, I definitely should do something like that because I've been wearing it now. I probably got a good 10 or 15,000 miles on that jacket, so I'm sure I have some things to say that weren't included in that video. I am very happy with that setup though. And it's definitely, it's nice to not have to carry around rain gear. I was able to shed a few pounds getting rid of that. Come ride Road to the Sun with me. That is an amazing, amazing road through Glacier National Park. It's one of my favorites, definitely top 5 for motorcycling roads. If you're a lot of people, they missed that one. That's another good one. Hey Jess, glad to have you on here. Good to see you. What camera am I currently using to shoot with? So, funny story. I'm actually just using the webcam on my MacBook. I had ordered a few adapters to try to hook up my Canon to use that as a webcam, but every adapter I ordered wasn't working. I'm waiting on one to show up. Hopefully that one will work so I can either use my GoPro or the Canon because I think the video quality would be much better than this. Rick asked or said, when you are in the Colorado BDR, come for coffee. Definitely. I will let you know. That's probably going to be in the next few weeks. I would love to see you when I get up there. Ed, another great question. How has your diet and exercise changed since I have been more stationary? Well, I'm definitely eating more than I was eating on the road. I think I tend to get distracted when I'm on the road and I don't eat nearly as much or as healthy. I think now that I'm stationary, it's a little bit easy, having a place where I can store food and be able to eat, a little bit healthier. But I'm actually putting on some weight, which is good because I'm pretty underweight for my height. As far as exercise, that's been a challenge, especially in Arizona right now because it's about 4:30 in the afternoon. It's probably just cleaning up some of these comments here. So the Canon M50 is the one you're using again for videos. Yes, Jess. I had tried a Nikon and it was absolutely great for photography, but the lack of image stabilization and the autofocus feature on it was just miserable. So it didn't work well for vlogging. That's why I ended up getting rid of it. So you guys may have noticed in some of my recent videos over the last few months, my face would be a little bit out of focus. That was just the camera. I just couldn't get even setting the focus manually, it just never seemed to work out for me. The Canon M50, if anybody's looking for a camera to vlog with, it's absolutely perfect. I love it. And there's a lot of good lens options for it, so you can kind of grow with the camera. The autofocus feature is unbelievably efficient. Image quality is great. It has the flip around screen, the mic input. Just a really great camera for this. I got another super chat. Rick, thank you. I appreciate that immensely. That is very generous of you. Thank you. Barry Fitzgerald. Hi, Tim. I'm looking to get the Survivor First Aid and Survival Kit combo, but it doesn't seem to ship to Canada. How much pull? Geez, I thought they were shipping to Canada. That's kind of odd, but I will email them and see what's going on with that. I will also say you're looking at the first aid kit and the survival kit combo. That might be overkill. The survival kit really has pretty much everything that the first aid kit has. I'm not trying to talk you out of a sale to one of my sponsors, but that might be a little bit double duty. So. Deb, I'm going to head out on a solo ride, at least Chicago to Seattle and back. How are you figuring when it's safe to go where? That is a tough one. I think no matter where you're going, just take precautions and just be considerate of people in smaller towns or even larger towns that might not be so used to seeing outsiders in the recent, last couple of weeks. Just try to be respectful of that, and I think as long as you're careful and you don't interact with too many people, you should be fine. I will say though, a lot of campgrounds are closed, and I don't know the situation with hotels in a lot of areas, but I'm assuming some of those might also be closed. So you might want to plan ahead a little bit on that. John Everidge, thank you for the super chat, John. I appreciate that. Old Man Riding, where to next? Well, I'm thinking in the next couple of weeks, I might be shooting out to New Mexico and maybe up to Colorado. I'm just slowly expanding the circle that I'm traveling in. Right now, I've been just taking short trips around Arizona, but I'm thinking about getting over into New Mexico soon. Mike's on here, Mr. and Mrs. Two-Wheeler. How you doing, Mike? Michael Yang, how about a KTM 790? Those are awesome bikes. Again, I don't have any personal experience riding one, but I've seen guys on them that are just absolutely ripping it up in the dirt. So let's see. Wynan, Tim, did you ever get the filters I sent you from Amazon? I did. I think you're referring to the drone filters. I did, and I appreciate it if that's what you're referring to. I thought I sent you a thank you note, but yeah, I absolutely appreciate that, and I did get some filters for the drone on my Amazon wish list. Bob's on here. Hey, Bob. He wants to know how I feel about hammock camping. So this has been a new thing for me. I purchased a relatively inexpensive hammock setup with a tarp and everything. I've been wanting to check this out and kind of give this a try. Since this summer, I've been seeing other people doing it, and people are raving about camping in a hammock. And my big thing was, well, when you're traveling, you can't always find trees and all of that. I decided to give it a try, and I absolutely love it. It was the best night's sleep I've had camping, just being up off the ground and just kind of swaying in the breeze a little bit. It's a great way to go if you have trees where you're camping. So hammock camping setup's a lot easier than a tent. It's about a little bit lighter than a tent, depending on which tent you're using. So Jim, love what you do. Tim, thank you very much. Have you tried, or what are your thoughts on hammock camping? I just answered that. Thinking of doing it on a 10+ day trip. Yeah, I absolutely recommend trying it. You do need to check where you're camping. Make sure you're finding places to hang a hammock, and it is incredibly comfortable. You'll get a great night's sleep. Appreciate that, Rosemary. Thank you. Okay, Diz J. Hi, Tim. You said in one of your videos you had your own business. If you don't mind me asking, what is it in, and how are you holding up with the current situation? So, my business is on YouTube. It's essentially this channel and things that are kind of surrounding this channel. For the most part, it's holding strong. I've seen some drops from certain areas, but I'm just trying to hang on and keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, it's tough for everybody, it's tricky. But yeah, that's my business, and I do some other things too. And sometimes every once in a while, I'll stop and just take an odd job. I'll do some landscape work or something like that, construction work, just to kind of get the kitty up a little bit. Basically, yeah, that's the gist of that. Brandon, did you start on a dual sport? I'm debating getting a DRZ 400 or 650 for 600 mileage trips, maybe further if I can take it. I actually started on road bikes, and I wish I hadn't. I wish I had started in the dirt, because I think I would have been a much better motorcycle rider, and I definitely saw an increase in that. So I think anybody getting a first bike should look for something you can ride in the dirt. It's a little more forgiving, and you're going to learn a lot more on loose surfaces that will be a major benefit on pavement. I think either one of those bikes you mentioned are perfect for the kind of trips you're talking about. Wynan, thank you for the super chat. That is awesome. Really appreciate that. And like the channel, keep up the videos, friend. I'm a fellow traveler in South. T-Gang 467. This is a good one. What about everything I should be riding with? One thing I will almost never ride without is gloves. I had a front tire blowout a few years ago and turned into a tank slapper pretty quickly. And he came off the bike wearing just a t-shirt and jeans. Luckily I was wearing a helmet, but the first thing that hit the ground was the palm of my hand. And I remember as I was tumbling through the air that I just looked at my hand and I could just see this carnage. And it just made me like keep pushing off the ground to avoid the road rash, and actually ended up hitting my head too. But I went down at just about 70 miles an hour, and I'm fortunate that that's the worst that happened was an awful lot of road rash that I do not recommend. And I didn't go to the hospital for it. I picked the gravel out myself. It was terrible. I don't recommend that. Just wear your gear. Because that would have been just a walk away incident if I was wearing gloves and a jacket. Sajad, thank you for the super chat. Glad to see you on here, buddy. That's awesome. Very generous of you. Thank you. I'm hoping we get to meet up this summer. I would love to see you and go for a ride together. Ryder asked, are you going to have more video from your trip to Mexico? Yes, and I'm super excited about it. I finally finished editing my footage of the trip down, and that will be out this Friday. I'm super excited about it. It's so beautiful down there. I had so much fun. I was hoping to film a lot more on the way back up, but fortunately with how that came out. Daniel Wiley, thank you for the super chat, buddy. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you're enjoying my videos. Appreciate it. Let's see, Rosemary asked, if you sleep in a hammock, you can have a waterproof cover over it. That's right. Yeah, the hammock setup I bought actually comes with everything. So it has a tarp over it, the straps, everything you need. And so you're undercover. I mean, you don't have to worry about being rained on or anything. It has a mosquito net too, which is kind of cool. I don't have to worry about bugs. On nice nights though, I do plan to just leave the roof tarp off because I like looking up at the stars. Bob asked, what is the new book about? So it's everything I know about motorcycle camping and more. Everything you would ever want to know. I get into, how to deal with thunderstorms, how to pack your bike, choosing gear, making sure you're making informed decisions so you don't end up buying things twice because you got the wrong stuff. Cooking at camp, everything, dealing with animals and all of it, everything you'd ever want to know about motorcycle camping. It's quite extensive and it's been a lot of work, but I'm super excited about it. So great question, Bob. Ed Curry, are you planning new FTA Adventure shirts or stickers in the future? Yes, I am. I just got some stickers. I haven't posted these officially for sale yet. I'm super excited about them. It's based off of the new shirt design, which is the other part of your question. There are some FTA Adventure shirts available. So those are pretty cool. They're over on Teespring. You might be able to see them below this video if you scroll down a little bit. Noah Dudley, ever thought of taking on the Dalton or Dempster Highway? Absolutely. It's 100% on my list of things to do. I've looked into it quite a bit, and I can't wait to get up there. It looks so beautiful, and I love how remote it is. Hey, Mike, since Alaska is out this year, we'll probably be taking a few weeks to do the West Coast. I expect an email with a detailed route plan based on your experiences. I have plenty of tips for you, bud. And maybe we will cross paths if you're out this way, so that would be awesome. Brian Riley, hi Tim, I'm in NP and ride all over the tri-state. I think maybe you mean New Jersey. Looking for some longer rides and curious what your favorite parts of the Northeast were. Since even Vermont is only a long weekend trip from here, it's pretty much endless. You get up into the White Mountains and Vermont. Ben & Jerry's is always a good pit stop. If you're in New Jersey, I think Tuxedo area is pretty good. I think it's called Seven Lakes Drive. There's a lot of good camping out there. And that should be pretty close to where you are. If you get up to Maine, the coast is gorgeous. New Hampshire, you got Mount Washington, the Kangamangas, and you pretty much can't go wrong once you get up there. You're going to get a lot of that really quaint New England, small towns and beautiful twisty roads, covered bridges, and it's just gorgeous up there. There's a lot of good riding in that area. Cody, good to see you on here. I'm hoping we're going to be in Colorado in a couple of weeks. I hope. Sajad, are you moving to the P&W, and how is the new tank bag? So the answer to your first question, not in the near future. I'm not looking at settling down anywhere. I think my base is going to stay in Phoenix for a while because once I kind of hit the road again, I'm planning on being another few years before I stop and I'm ready to settle down. But when I do, P&W is high on my list of places to consider settling in. And as far as the tank bag, that's the Moscow Moto Nomad. I really need to do a review on that. I absolutely love it. The tank bag I had before that was one big compartment. It was expandable, and it always just got overstuffed, and it was like your junk drawer because it has so many pockets and places to put things. So everything's super organized. At first, it bothered me that it wasn't expandable. Brian, Seven Lakes and Hawks Nest are amazing. Do them all the time. Great memory, sir. Yes, those areas are awesome. I used to live on Long Island in New York, and I would very frequently cross the bridge and go over to that area and ride around. It's really great. Old Guy on a Bike said, look for Smuggler's Notch in Vermont. And someone else recommended that to me, and I didn't get a chance to check it out when I was there, and I wish I had because it sounds really cool. So apparently, Cody is standing on a 12-foot ladder and watching this live chat. That sounds dangerous, bud. Chandler Marshall, you make some nice, this is, the super chat keeps moving as I'm trying to read stuff. You make some nice YouTube content. I hope to reach my goals as a YouTuber. Thank you very much, and I think you will. If you just keep moving forward and being yourself and putting stuff out there, it's bound to happen. It just takes a little bit of time. What about the F850 GS Adventure in off-road and with loaded panniers? So I had the 800 GSA, and it was a very capable bike off-road. I think it was better off-road than it was on the pavement. It is a tall bike, but that's not necessarily an issue for everyone. Me as a new off-road rider, that was a little bit tricky. And I have no experience with the 850, but I've heard the new engines are just incredible. So I'm sure that's a great option. Stephen Liu, Tim, did you make a video of Texas Hill Country? I haven't yet. So when I left on the trip around the national parks, I got close to the hill country, decided to skip it and hit it on the tail end. And then what happened was, as I was coming back around and completing the loop, I was getting close to Christmas. I was trying to meet my friend Cody in Arizona, and I just ran out of time. So I was thinking, I'll just come back to the hill country. So I unfortunately had to skip the hill country. That's probably on my list this year to go check that out in the next few months. By the way, this is Diz J. By the way, love your videos. I had my trip planned for the coming summer, and my prep was done based off your videos. Keep them up, buddy. Thank you, and I'm glad I could help. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to help. John Jones, Tim, did you pre-plan your camping places or just wing it? I always just wing it. At the most, I would plan maybe for the night of, like during the day. As it gets later, if I'm like thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to need a campsite, and I'm thinking around like 3 o'clock about where I'm going to be winding down, I might book something in advance from there, just because if I'm in an area where I know dispersed camping isn't an option, um, reservations might be required. But frequently, I just wing it. I'll just pull into a national forest and dip down a dirt road and see what I find. So it keeps things flexible, and it takes a lot of pressure off of you, having deadlines and places that you have to get to. I've run into things where I've booked a hotel that was maybe an hour and a half away, and then all of a sudden the skies open up, and I'm now forced to ride through a total downpour that I could have avoided if I hadn't booked that hotel. Couldn't get a refund. Um, BJ and the Bear. In July, I'm planning a coast-to-coast-to-coast trip, then on to Sturgis before heading back home. Any suggestions or quick tips? No, not really, but avoid the highways as much as you can. There's so many beautiful roads that can get you coast to coast without getting on the highway. If you have the time, take the secondary roads. Whenever you're looking at a map and you see an interstate, say it's the 40 or the 90, just look for a small little line that runs parallel to that, and it'll be a small little two-laner that'll be more scenic. You'll get more of the countryside, and you'll go through some really cool small towns. That would be my advice. Avoid the highways. Mike, thank you for the super chat, man. I appreciate that. It would be great to ride together and hang again. Keep up the great work, bro. You too. Thank you. Absolutely. Definitely let me know where you guys are going to be, because I'm going to be roaming around the western 11 states, and I'd love to meet up with you guys if you're traveling around. Let's see. Yusef asked, what are your next plans after coronavirus ends? Are you planning a trip around the world? That was my plan. This fall, I was supposed to head down to South America. For now, that's on hold, but when things open up again, absolutely. It's my plan to travel the world on that bike and just keep going until I can't anymore. I want to get all the continents that I can ride on, and as much as I can see. So my plan is essentially, what my plan has been is South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa. That's kind of the order I want to go in. So hopefully, I'm sure it'll happen someday. Okay, see Mary, I guess I must have missed a question here. I'm also curious about what Robbie asked. How do you store your footage while on the road? So basically every day, well, I have a laptop with me. I have an external hard drive. I have a bunch of little SD cards for my cameras. Pretty much every day when I get to camp, at the very least, I'll turn my computer on and unload everything to the external hard drive, which is like 4 terabytes or something like that. I don't necessarily edit it right away, but I just dump it there and get it off the little SD card so that I can film the next day. So that's how I store that. And then I always have it kind of double saved too. So that way, if anything ever happened to one of the external hard drives, I'm still safe. I haven't lost my footage. Chandler Marshall, what's the furthest you traveled on a motorcycle? Well, it depends on how you mean that. If you mean what's the furthest I've been from home, or what's my longest trip. This most recent trip ended up being about 36,000 miles, beginning to end. So that was probably my longest trip. As far as furthest from home, I've only really done a lot of traveling in the US. Even when I went down to Baja, I don't think that was the furthest I had been. I'd probably say up to Maine or Canada was the furthest from home. Bob, what was the most exciting part of your Baja trip? There were a lot of exciting things about Baja. I think just the language barrier and the difference in culture, and just feeling like I was just really out of my comfort zone. And I think that was just super exciting for me. I think seeing the missions was just incredible. Whale watching was awesome. We got to see some whales that just came right up to the boat. The food was also exciting. I think maybe being down in La Paz for a month, I actually was fortunate enough, and I didn't plan this on purpose, but Carnival was taking place while I was down there. So I got to experience Carnival in La Paz, which was so, so cool. What an experience. They really know how to party down there, and their food is incredible. Diz J, what are your thoughts about the DCT Africa Twin? Whoops, I totally just lost that comment. For your style of riding, I feel like it would be very difficult off-road. Thanks. I feel like the DCT clutch would be an advantage off-road once you get used to it. I feel like it would really throw me off in the beginning though, because I use my clutch so much when I'm in the dirt. But I think they're perfectly capable on and off-road. I've seen a lot of guys riding those in all manner of terrain, and they're pretty awesome bikes. Ramon asked, how does the tank bag fit on the tank? I have a GSA and the tank slants down a bit, just worried about it flopping around on the, so the tank bag should be for Friday. I think you'll be fine with it. I have the GS, the standard GS, and you have a little flexibility where you mount it on the tank, because mine has a slope too. I find it's easier to have it closer to me because it doesn't interfere with the handlebars. Because if it's in the center, it's going to be teetering. So either have it really close to you or up towards the front, depending on your setup. If you have like handlebar risers or something, you shouldn't be too worried about it interfering with your steering. Mr. GRD said, great channel. Thank you. Appreciate that. How long have you been moto vlogging? I've been making videos on YouTube for a little more than 5 years, I think, but only consistently for the last 2.5 years. And actually, funny story, I never used to talk in my videos until about 2.5 years ago when I started posting regularly. Patrick, cheers from Australia. Cheers to you. Appreciate that. Glad to have you here. How many miles are on that bike so far? From Heath. Great question. And I wish I could say 100,000 miles, but I'm just about 1,000 miles shy of that right now. I was hoping to cross that milestone, but I haven't really been traveling too much lately because I wanted to do a 100,000 mile review on the GS. I absolutely love that bike. And it's still running great with 100,000 miles on it. It runs as good as it did when it was new. And I hope to put many, many more hundreds of thousands of miles on that bike. Do you have a general mileage you like to ride in a day? It changes drastically, and I think over time it has gotten smaller and smaller. Used to be 500 to 600 miles a day was good for me. Now I'm closer to 150 to 200 miles a day. I just like to stop and see things more. Filming takes up some of the time throughout the day. I like to get to camp earlier and just hang out, or hang out in the morning and not leave early. So 150 to 200 miles is very, very comfortable, especially if you're on like a really long trip and there's no pressure to, like, you know, if you're on a long weekend and you want to go see a national park that's 600 miles away, well, you might have to do 600 miles a day to get a day there. But 150, 200 is really, really nice and comfortable. Hello from South Carolina. I subbed you last month. Thank you, Donna Main. Appreciate that. Robin G, how is your Spanish? Communication in different languages must be a trick. It's good. I'm not going to demonstrate for you because I'm a little bit self-conscious about it, but I'm definitely able to get by and have some conversations with people. I'm not what I would say fluent, but I can definitely get by. I didn't have any problems with checkpoints or anything, communicating with people or ordering food, getting gas, whatever I needed. I was practicing Spanish before I got down there. I took Spanish in school years ago, so I had a little bit of a background in it. And I was practicing as I was down there because I really want to get more conversational. I felt like there were a lot of times where I met somebody interesting and I couldn't really communicate thoroughly with them. And I feel like that was a major disadvantage. I wish I could have maybe connected with people a little more if we could have understood each other. Tim, what is your website and where can I buy shirts, etc.? So my website is ftaadventures.com. You can buy shirts over there and everything else. Or you can go to teespring.com/40 times around. And you can buy shirts directly from there. If you want stickers, I think there's a link on the website, but that's it. Big Cartel. All of the links are down in the description box down below for the website and shirts and all of that. Ride of Rides in Vegas. Planning on doing the Cabder, Colorado and Utah trips. I'll keep an eye out for you. I'll keep an eye out for you too. Sounds like we might be crossing paths this summer, so let's try to make something happen. I'd love to see you out there. Let's see. Donna Main, the GS is one of many adventure bikes I'm currently looking at as my next bike. I'd say you can't go wrong with the GS. I'm definitely biased, but I think it's an incredible motorcycle, on and off road. The GS is just, it really suits me at least. Okay, Pale Face Fish Hunter, long time viewer, first time chatter. Hello. Hi, thank you for the comment. Can you recommend a budget tent? Have a hammock set up for the tree thing. Yeah, well, that's kind of my problem with it too. Under $100 would be nice. I don't know of anything new that's going to be under $100. That's decent. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I don't have any experience with it. You might want to look at used gear, or maybe like the REI outlet. Maybe check on Amazon for last year's models. You might be able to find something a little bit cheaper, maybe on OfferUp or something like that. If you're looking for something new, my favorite budget-friendly tent would have to be the Kelty. It used to be the TN2, but they replaced it with the different model name, but same design, different color. And now it is the Dirt Motel, I believe, but that is going to run you about $250. So that's not really a cheap one. Yeah, I think looking for some used gear, you can find some really quality stuff for cheap. Indian Bell, nice to have you on here. Do me and Amanda from As a Magpie Flies plan to meet up again? Yes, hopefully we do. I'm sure we will see each other again. We've crossed paths a few times in both of our traveling around, so definitely I love seeing Amanda whenever we cross paths. Tony asked, have you done any IBA rides? I just lost the comment. Yes, I have. I've only got one documented IBA ride under my belt, and that is, I think, the Bun Burner or the Saddle Store, whichever one is 1,000 miles that I documented the trip. My first attempt at it, however, I left from Arizona. My intention was to go to Yellowstone, which is exactly 1,000 miles from here. And I made it all the way up there and decided, okay, I'll just turn around and start heading back. So I made it all the way up and halfway back. Took me about 36 hours and I rode 1,500 miles, but I didn't document any of it. So if I had, I would have been good for that other Iron Butt award. Handyman Kurt, what tires are you using? I have to think about this. If you ask me what tires I recommend, the answer is easy. I would say the Michelin Anarchy Adventures. I think right now I have that on the rear, and I have a Shinko 805 on the front, which is an odd combination because I have like a kind of aggressive off-road tire on the front and a pretty much street-based tire on the rear. But the tires weren't ready. They weren't worn out enough to get matching sets. So I think when I get into the BDRs, I'll be using an Anarchy Wild in the rear and sticking with the 805 in the front. Because the front tire just lasts a really long time. I get like 20,000 miles out of the front. The rear, if I use the Shinkos, I only get like 2,000 miles. I get a lot more out of the Anarchy Wilds, which are also, they perform well in the dirt. Amanda said Tim's answer is better than mine. I'm sure we'll cross paths again. Gary says the Kelty Outback is under 100 and is a great motorcycle tent, so you might want to check that one out for a budget tent. Marmot tents are also great. Too Slow said they're a little more expensive, but they're awesome tents. BJ and the Bear said, if I was looking for a used GS, what would be the oldest bike you would recommend? I'd say as old as you're comfortable going. Those things will run forever. Do a little research ahead of time though, because there's a few year models and I don't know what they are. Something in the 2000 range, 2007-ish, something like that, but don't hold me to it, where there were some issues with the ABS system killing the battery while you're at a light. If you were holding in the brake, it would kill the battery. That was like a 1 year thing or 2 year thing, and they fixed it. So don't buy that yet, whatever that is. But other than that, even if you saw a bike with 100,000 miles on it, the GS is still going to keep going for a long time. And I think, especially if it's one owner that put 100,000 miles on it, they probably took good care of it, despite riding it off-road and being the crap out of it. But I'm sure they took good care of the engine. I got another super chat. Thank you, Shannon. Yay, I figured it out. Thanks for all your help. Shannon, I appreciate that. It was very generous of you. Thank you. And I'm glad you figured that out. Very cool. Rohit Menon said, what are your most favorite trails in the high desert and Southwest? I would say probably Valley of the Gods and the Mogi Dugway are two of the most beautiful dirt roads, and they're pretty much connected anyway, so you can do them in one trip. It's pretty mild off-road. There's nothing too gnarly out there on those roads. There's plenty of gnarly stuff in the area, but those are just absolutely beautiful, and it's desert, and it's big rock formations and just wide open landscape. It's beautiful. Brian said, can you talk about cooking equipment that is compact and easy to pack? There are quite a few good options. I like and have been using for a while the Jetboil Flash. It's not the most compact, but I like it because everything fits into that one container. But there are a lot of options for stoves that are like this big. Some of them even fold up and fit in a wallet. And then at that case, the biggest part of your cook setup would be the fuel container. There's actually pots from Sea to Summit called X pots, and they're collapsible. They're made of a rubber material and an aluminum base. They're safe to cook in. I've used one of those extensively. They're not cheap, but they pack very, very small. But like I said, I've been using the Jetboil, and for me that works because the most frequent thing I'm doing is boiling water, and the Jetboil is just really good at that. Brian, super chat, thank you. Appreciate that. Very generous of you. I don't see a comment, but thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, I got a question here about stealth camping. 8BS for lunch. I'm scared to get caught stealth camping, but want to try along the 101 California coast. What is the best way to find sites? That is a tough area to find stealth camping. I will say I've gotten myself into some issues not being able to find a place to camp, especially if you're looking to be near the water. However, there's an awful lot of national forest just a little bit inland. So if you're doing the coast ride, there's a lot of places you could take a right and head into a national forest and find camping where you don't have to worry about getting caught. That's a tough one because a lot of it's privately owned and people are very protective of their private land. And there's a lot of regulations in that area too that prevent people from camping on the beach. Attorney that rides, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Have you ridden in any other countries than those in North America? No, I haven't yet. So far, just Mexico, the US, and Canada. I was hoping this fall to start heading down to South America, but that's on hold for a while. I have every intention of it. I really wanted to get to know the United States. I wanted to know, where I'm from and really get to know that before I ventured out. And that way I would have something to compare what I was seeing to. Um, so now I've pretty thoroughly explored the US. I do have some more to see in Canada and Mexico, but definitely planning on hitting as many countries as I can. Hello from West Virginia, Water Dude. How you doing? Let's see. Dale Dakar. Tim, hi, I'm a Harley touring bike rider. Enjoy what you do. Is it okay for us to still be friends? Love to have coffee with you sometime. I'll buy. Dale, absolutely. If you ride, you ride. I don't care about what you ride. I'd love to have coffee with you sometime. And I enjoy riding all types of bikes too. So, yeah, no worries there. I used to have a Victory Cross Country, which is a pretty touring style bike. Wasn't quite an ultra classic or a gold wing, but it was a nice setup for road travel. Ethan said, I wanted to know about your bike. I plan on going on a long trip this year. I need to purchase a bike. What do you suggest and what do you ride? What I suggest is the bike that gets you excited, the bike you love the most. Any bike will get you to where you want to go for the most part. You got to put a little thought into what style of riding you want to do and where you want to go with it. But if you have a dream bike that you just absolutely get so excited when you see, then that's the bike to take. Because, for me, the GS has its flaws. I absolutely love it, but there's certain things that aren't great about it. But it's a bike that when I open my tent in the morning, I get excited to see, and it gets my day just started on the right note. So the one you love the most is the one you should get. I ride an R1200 GS, 2015 R1200 GS, and it's absolutely perfect. So it's perfect for me anyway. That's what I ride. I got another super chat here. Where did that just go? Rohit Menon, thank you. He says, for the road, stay wild and free. Really appreciate that. Wow, you guys are being very generous today. That is amazing. Absolutely incredible. Thank you very much, Rohit. I appreciate that. Got another one from Kahisa. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm terribly sorry. But thank you for the super chat. Very generous. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Chandler Marshall said, have you ever been to Washington, D.C.? Yes, a couple of times, a few times on a bike. When I was on a bike, I never really explored much of it, though. I kind of did that more when I was off the bike. But it is a beautiful area. Actually, one year I got to catch DC during the cherry blossoms, which was just stunning, absolutely beautiful. If anybody gets a chance to see that, it does get crowded in that area during that time, but the cherry blossoms are so beautiful. Dave, thank you for the super chat, Dave. I appreciate that. Good to see you doing a live chat, Tim. Thanks for the great content and safe travels. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that, Dave. That is awesome. Wow, got another one from Stevens0071. Thank you. Appreciate that. Wow, you guys are incredible. That is so cool. Tom Rowe, another one. Thanks for keeping us involved. Thank you, Tom. Wow, appreciate that. I don't even know what to say. You guys are, wow, that's incredible. Orlando said, can you make another video about camping by yourself in the woods? Absolutely. Is there anything in particular that you're referring to, or just general tips and tactics, or is there anything in particular? I have one kind of talking about dealing with the fear side of things. Happy to make a video for you if you want. Or you can just do a vlog and just talk about what it's like camping in the woods by myself. What got you started in traveling and who inspired you? Well, I didn't even know that traveling on a motorcycle was really a thing on my first big trip. I hate to say it, but I had watched The Long Way Round, but that I wouldn't say was like my number one inspiration. It just kind of got me to think like, wait, maybe this is possible, and maybe I can do this in my own country. That's not why I got a GS, though. I will say that, just caveat there. It's just a great bike, but that's not why I got it. Long Way Round was something I watched just before I left on my first trip. And as soon as I got a taste for being out on the open road on a bike, days on end, I just couldn't get enough of it. I mean, it just instantly became part of who I was, and that was just something I had to do. That's a great question, though. Okay, so Steven007 just said, Oregon just closed dispersed camping in the Oregon National Forest, but it didn't say anything about BLM. That is great to know. So anybody planning on traveling in the Oregon area, be aware that National Forest might be closed. Actually, so the issue we're running into in Arizona is dispersed camping isn't necessarily closed, but because all of the established campgrounds are closed, everybody's just flooding the dispersed campgrounds, and it's so hard to get a spot, which is not typical. So be aware of that if you guys are hitting the road. It might be hard finding a place to sleep. Donna Main, what advice would you give for someone like me just starting out? I think just get out there and try it. I think that's the biggest thing. I think a lot of people put it off. Maybe they make plans that they think are too big, or they get intimidated by it. But I think just get out there and do what you can do with what you have. So even if that's just a long weekend trip, just get out there and practice and learn as you go, and be open to that, and enjoy the learning process, because it's a lot of fun. Heath, thank you. He said, you've gotten so good at presenting and speaking. I know how big of an effort that is. Thank you. That actually means a lot to me. I have a lot of social anxiety, so this is not something that comes easy to me, but I'm definitely getting more comfortable with it. So I really appreciate that. I'm glad that's noticed. Let's see here. Savannah, thank you very much for the super chat. That's a cool sticker. I appreciate that very much. Very generous of you. Let's see. Indian Bell, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Old guy on a bike, thank you. I'm glad to have you here. It's very generous. And Craig Thomas, love from Ohio. Thank you, Craig. I really appreciate that. You guys are too kind. Let's see. Every time I start reading a comment, it just jumps on me. Andre Kelly, hi Tim, how do you feel about jackets that already come with armor, such as Climb Carlsbad versus Dakar, value and price, transcontinental riding? How important is armor, and recommendations? I'm struggling to get used to the separate armor idea. That's not working great for me. I love the Moscow jacket, but I'm having a hard time finding armor to wear under it. I think for touring in general, having integrated armor into your jacket is your best option. But I think some of those jackets, maybe not the Carlsbad, but some of the higher up climb stuff in particular, it just gets so heavy and overly engineered. So I think I would avoid that. I think a jacket in the $500 range is probably as much as you need to spend. Anything over that, you're just, maybe it'll be more comfortable and more technical, but I think that's a good range. Scott Kesner, you're too kind. Thank you for the super chat. He said you're the pioneer of adventure riding. I don't know if I would say that, but thank you. That is very generous of you. Space Ghost, thank you for the super chat. Tim, love the content. Keep it up. Any big plans for the summer? I wouldn't say big plans, but I am hoping to do a couple of BDRs. I was just talking about this a little while ago. Hoping to do Colorado BDR, the New Mexico and Southern California one, maybe some sections of Utah. And basically The big plans for the summer are to hang out in the U.S., mostly in the western 11 states, and just kind of see what happens. ABS for lunch said, what was your worst encounter with people during travels? How did you deal with it? I don't know if I've really had any bad experiences with people while traveling. I've been spooked a few times, but that was just me. I mean, that wasn't anything anybody else was doing. I guess maybe if I could think of one thing, I was camping on the side of the road one time, and first thing in the morning, somebody pulled up next to my campsite and started honking their horn. I guess they didn't want me there. That was probably the worst thing I can think of right now. Yeah, other than people cutting me off in traffic, which is pretty typical on a motorcycle. Okay, Orlando said, another fear video. I did watch that video. This might be a good topic considering most folks are isolating from people. I agree. I think that's, yeah, I can definitely retouch on that and kind of expand on that video because I know that's something I definitely dealt with. And sometimes that fear of camping alone still creeps in. You know, you'll be out in the middle of nowhere by yourself and you'll hear something and it's just hard to shake. So I could definitely expand on that a little bit. Christopher Vasquez, whoa, thank you for the super chat. He says, keep the good content coming. Yes, GSAs are plain awesome, LOL. Yes, GSs in general. Sometimes I do regret not going with a GSA. That extra gas definitely seems like it would come in handy. Energia M. How reliable is your GS? Incredibly reliable. I've never had any issues with reliability. It always starts when I push the button. 100,000 miles. You know, it's got a couple of years under its belt. Being an outdoor bike in the sun and everything else, I don't store it away. I just put a cover over it. Never really had an issue. I had a battery die on me once, but that battery was like 2.5 years old, so it was due. Let's see. Aaron says, hey, bud, when you coming to Maine again? You're really an inspiration to me. And I watch every video you put out. God bless you, Tim, and be safe. Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that, and same to you. I'm hoping to be back on the East Coast at some point this year visiting family, but I'm not 100% if I'm going to be on the bike or not. That's kind of up in the air. JG says, you seem like you are healthy, are you? Well, I try. My diet's not always great. Sometimes I do eat junk food, but I try to stay healthy and hydrated as much as possible, and I try to be conscious about what I'm eating. So it's not always easy, though. Here's a question about, let's see, Mr. Mizilpex. Not sure if I said that right. Do you carry a firearm? I do not. Seems not worth it to me. I do understand the idea behind it, but it doesn't work for me. And I think the most I carry in terms of defense is maybe some bear spray if I'm in grizzly country. That's about it, though. I usually have a knife with me, but having a hard time keeping up on the comments. Savannah, she says, do you own a car? No, I haven't owned a car for 5+ years. I've been a daily motorcycle commuter when I was working in Phoenix. I would just commute to work every day on the bike, which was challenging. Even in Phoenix, you'd think, you know, the weather's beautiful down here, and it's great in the winter, but when it's 115 degrees, and I used to do landscape lighting, so I'd be working outside all day, digging holes and, you know, moving rocks, and I'd get done with work and I'd have to get on the bike and sit in traffic in 115 degrees. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, but it was worth it to me, and that was how I was able to afford the bike I have, because that bike would have been out of reach for me if I had also had a car. Let's see. Camper Beast 1 asked me about Talladega National Forest. That's so familiar. I feel like I have been in there, but I can't think of any specific spots. I'd say pretty much with any national forest, just look for a dirt fire access road and see what you find. That's usually my tactic, is just winging it. Just go down a dirt road and see what I come up with. Just Gold said, did you buy your bike new? I did. I bought it new in 2016, and it was a 2015 model, but it was brand new, just previous year's model. And I wanted to get a new bike because I wanted to be responsible for putting all the miles on it. Let's see. Lucho Zubiate said, do you carry a Garmin InReach? I don't, but I carry something very similar, the Spot X. I think it's a Spot X, the one that you can do two-way communication with. And I do highly recommend you guys carry something like that if you're out in the backcountry, even if you're not, because you could just as easily go off the road on a paved road and end up, down in a ditch and no one can see you. So having something where you can reach people or call for help. And another cool thing I like with the Spot X, and I think the Garmin does this too, and some of the other ones, is that they'll offer you insurance packages that are very reasonable. I think for $6 a month, I get evacuation insurance, which covers me up to $100,000 for a helicopter ride out if, God forbid, I needed it. And for another $6 a month, I get vehicle recovery. So if my bike ever got stuck somewhere, I'm covered for them getting it out. So another plus to carrying one of those. Not to mention it could save your life. Mike asked him, what was your worst experience on a motorcycle trip? There's been a few of them, actually. As much as I love it, there's been a few times where I've just wanted to just give up, mostly weather related. I think one of the absolute worst experience for me was riding through Utah, and it was raining all day, and then I was down in a valley on Route 191. And if anybody's ever been out there, it's just a wide open sky, and it changes so quick. You just get a totally blue sky, and then all of a sudden the black just rolls in, and you're just in a snowstorm. Well, on this particular day, it started raining, and then I noticed all the cars were stopped, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why is everybody stopped? I figured it was an accident. And I'm just sitting behind a row of people, and I realized, oh, there's a flash flood, and I'm at the low point right now, and I don't know how far back I have to go to get uphill, but I can see right in front of me on the other side of the flash flood, the road goes up. So I think, okay, let me give this a shot. I think this is my best bet, because if I turn around, there might be another flash flood. I might be stuck down here in this valley. So I figured this is my best bet. I'll get the higher ground. And I went through. The water was so strong, it was just pouring over the road, and I'm just getting muddy water just coming up over my helmet. The bike is just getting pushed off the road. I just kind of turn in and just go through it diagonally, and I was just covered in muddy water. And I pulled over a little bit away from the flash flood once I got up to the hill, and then it starts hailing on me. And I was nowhere near a hotel or a gas station or anything. It was just a long, miserable ride. I think I was on the bike for like 18 hours that day, just cold and wet. Hail, rain, wind, everything. Flash flood. It might have even snowed for a little bit. That was probably the worst experience. That was a long story. Pedro Gomez. Hola, Tim. Hola, Pedro. ¿Cómo estás? That's my Spanish for you. Rosemary, the link for the helicopter insurance. So that comes through my Spot X, which is a little device that I can do two-way communication. It's essentially works off of satellite. So when you're out of cell range, as long as you have a clear shot to a satellite, you'd be able to communicate to people and call for help. The Spot X offers a package with that kind of insurance. Good story. Yeah, that was a long one. Are you going to auction your bike at some point or retire it? Well, I'm hoping to someday put more than 1 million miles on that bike. That is actually where the name 40 Times Around came from. It's a life goal. It might take me, more than a decade to do. And I'm hoping to just keep it forever, because I think it's going to have way too much sentimental value to get rid of. So it'll be a long time before I'm thinking about retiring that bike, hopefully. Oh, sorry, Rosemary, I was talking too fast. That is, yeah, I'll type it for you. It's the Spot X. Does anybody know if the Garmin InReach also has insurance plans through it? We can maybe let Rosemary know. She's looking for some kind of evacuation insurance or vehicle recovery insurance. And I know that even if you don't have one of those, there are insurance companies that offer that, but I think it's more expensive. Great Spanish. We'll give some classes when you come to Miami, lol. Yeah, I know, it's not perfect. But I would appreciate some lessons if anybody wants to give me Spanish lessons. 750cc said new book soon. Yes, hopefully in the next few months. Just typing away the last few weeks, trying to get it done so I can get it out to an editor, get everything formatted and printed. So hopefully another few months. What about handlebar warmers? That's from CJ Umberger. Yeah, I think that is such an awesome feature for motorcycle touring. It comes in so handy. You could always get the heated gloves if you don't have heated hand grips, but just having something to keep your hands warm. I can't tell you how many times that has been just an absolute lifesaver, because not having that, even with hand guards, my fingers will get so numb that I can't even operate a clutch or hold the throttle. I mean, you start getting down in the 20s and teens at even 30 miles an hour. The wind chill factor on that is just insane. So yeah, I do recommend those. Anyways, I think I'm going to kind of wrap this up here. But I do want to say thank you guys. The super chats were awesome. That was incredibly generous of you guys. Thank you. Not really sure what's going on there. But anyways, thank you guys for coming to the live stream. And let's see. I'll do 2 more questions, okay? And then I'm gonna sign off. Davin Templeman said, hello, Tim from Australia. Any plans to come down under and tour our country? Yes, absolutely. I would love to get to Australia at some point. It's definitely on my list. And David Weiss, another super chat. This is going to be the last question. So what is your favorite route into Yellowstone? Definitely not the southern entrance, although it is cool going by the Tetons, which you can get to from the southern entrance. I seem to always come at it from West Yellowstone, and I don't know why. The entrance itself isn't great, but West Yellowstone is a cool town. And once you get in, there's a really nice river right there that is nice to pull over and see. I think my favorite way to get into the park would be Beartooth Pass, which comes in from Montana, Red Lodge, Montana. And you can get into the park that way. It's an absolutely stunning route. And the north entrance is cool too, because then you can see the arch. So anyways, thank you again for the super chat, David. I appreciate that. And thank you, everybody. Getting tired. Thanks, everybody, for coming on here. And I will talk to you guys very soon. Don't forget to check out my video on my Mexico trip this Friday. So thank you guys for hanging out. Talk to you soon.